Good morning, friends. Excuse me. So clearing out the cobwebs, I think, a little bit yet this morning. I hope you're doing well. I'm really enjoying being out here in this beautiful spot that I get to call home, and feeling very fortunate for that. I am excited to introduce this topic to you. Um, that I think the meaning, well, for most of my classes, I think the meaning of the topic changes over time, depending on what I'm going through, depending on what I'm experiencing with clients, depending on what's happening in the world. So what I like about this one is just it's a kind of it's just evolving all the time. And I think that a lot of people really struggle with the concept of maintaining balance, well, finding and then maintaining balance. And sometimes it's even hard to just recognize that things are out of balance. And so um, I hope that this class um, will help put into action, or at least open that insight just a little bit more in terms of what does it look like to feel off balance, and how can I maybe course correct in order to find yourself more in balance with yourself, with your surroundings, with nature, all of the above, any or all of the above. So I hope you'll join me in just finding a comfortable seated shape for this practice. I want to encourage just taking a nice, comfortable but relaxed, or alert but relaxed shape, and taking some time to settle in the space. And take all the time you need, setting aside anything else that may have come before now, and finding yourself present in this moment. Taking a few slow breaths, and we'll get started here in a little bit, but trying to remind yourself that anything that is um, has already happened is done, and anything that hasn't yet happened in the future, see if we can just set those aside, not letting those have as much of an influence, if at all possible, on what we've got going on. So take a few more moments to settle in, and we'll get started here in just a moment. Come on, you can go on up here if you want. Yeah, go for it. Welcome. We're glad you're here. So while we continue to get started today, maybe utilize the senses to just find some grounding. So by that I mean just taking maybe a chance to look around. So starting with your vision. One practice for grounding that's really helpful for some people is using their senses to be present. So maybe what can they see around them? Maybe 5 things that you can see is one practice. And then once you've identified 5 different things around you, maybe going to 4 things that you can touch. So maybe the ground around you, the floor, depending on where you are, your own clothing on your skin, the feeling of the temperature of the air around you. There's no wrong way to do that. So finding 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, so maybe even just the sound of my own voice, or any of the sounds in your space, whether they be related to your home, or if you're outdoors, something like that. 2 things you can smell. This one's maybe a little bit harder sometimes, but wherever you are, maybe it's the smell of like your own the product that you use, or the smell of the space that you're in, or even just the smell of your skin. And then finally, 1 thing you can taste. So even if it's just the last thing you ate, or more of a neutral taste, or whatever taste you might have, see if we can separate the idea of good or bad, and just that's just how it is. And using those senses to really ground into this moment and be present. So if that's meaningful to you, feel free to take a few moments to settle in with that, utilizing all of your senses while you're here in the present moment. Another thing to anchor to can, of course, also be your breath. So maybe placing a hand somewhere on your torso, Breathing in and sighing out, taking your time. That can be something you can feel and maybe even hear as you continue to settle into this present moment. And while you're still getting settled, I want to encourage a breath practice that is just really even. So some people call this square or box breathing. Um, and there will be an optional hold to make it fully square if you want to do that. Otherwise, you can simply just breathe in and out very, very simply for the same amount of counts. This is a good style of breathing for when we just have need to maybe slow things down a little bit, need to be present. So it's not really necessarily energizing or anything like that, or calming per se, although it can be a little calming. It's more about just kind of being even and finding an evenness. And so if you're that type of person who at all experiences unevenness or that lack of balance, like I was talking about before, this might be a good practice to utilize on occasion just to help yourself navigate those difficult situations. So I'll introduce both styles of breathing. We'll start with just the even breath, and I'll add the inhale and exhale retention if that's something you want to add to your practice, but skip it if that's not right for you. So taking a comfortable seated shape if you're not already there, or you can do this lying down on your back if that's suitable for you, whatever feels best for you. And taking a few moments to just breathe naturally. You're welcome to close your eyes, maybe going inward a little bit if you like, but it's not a requirement. Taking a few slow breaths to prepare. Exhale fully. And when you're ready, inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Even breath. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, and 4, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's about 5 rounds. So feel free to do that for at least 5 more if you like that style, or you can add the inhale and exhale retention. So that looks a little bit like this. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and pause at the top of the breath. 2, 3, 4, and then exhale. 2, 3, 4, and pause at the bottom in breath 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do that again. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and pause if you want. So pause, 2, 3, holding that breath, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. A few more rounds. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. A couple more. Inhale 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale 2, 3, 4, and pause. Inhale, doing whichever style of breathing feels best for you. Pause if that's what you're doing. And exhale and pause. I've got one more round to do for myself. Feel free to do it with me if you like. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause. 2, 3. And now continue that style of breathing if you want, or skip it altogether and return back to a natural style of breathing. And let's take a few moments, at least 10 more slow breaths, just to notice the impact, if anything, of that practice. As I've said before, after any kind of breath practice, it can be important to just pause, just let things be. Just notice. How does that feel? What's that like for you? What impact, if anything, are you noticing from that inhale and exhale, movement of energy, changing of maybe all of that up and down and instead into a more even state? You take as much time with this rest as you need. I'm going to take just a few moments to explain a little bit of thoughts on balance today, that being our topic, as I've already said. So, obviously, we'll be exploring it in a literal way. So, what does balance look like in our bodies in different shapes? Um, and then, like pretty much all my classes, there'll be the element of then, okay, well, what does this mean maybe on a deeper level, a few layers deeper than that? What does it mean to have balance in our lives, in our minds, in our needs, in the way that we assert ourselves, things like that? And so, just want to encourage taking time to consider what balance um, means to you and what areas of your life might not be in balance, and ways to check for out of balance kinds of things is where you have a lot of maybe what is traditionally thought of as negative emotions. So like maybe a lot of irritation or frustration or anxiety, fear, anger. Any of those things can really be cues or trailheads for those paths that we might need to follow that would help us to understand, okay, this is an area of my life that might need some tweaking or might need some change or might need whatever, fill in the blank. And so, as you maybe consider, maybe your mind goes right to that thought, like to that part of your life that is not very balanced, whether it's a relationship or a job or a habit of yours that is maybe off kilter and causing you difficulty. And you know it's not right for you, or you know it's not going in the way that is the best, the most helpful for you. Try to approach it non judgmentally and with just as much compassion as you can muster, because we're all doing our best. We're absolutely doing the best job that we can. But in the more literal sense of balance, I want to talk about in the body how we can, three things that really can help with balance. The first thing is our breath. So if you're in a balanced shape, whether it's tree or half moon or you name it, standing on your head, whatever your balance shape you're doing, we will not be standing on our head today, just so everyone can release that concern. If you're thinking about balance, your breath and having a calm, even breath can be really essential. A lot of times we try to hold our breath in balance shapes, and it's much easier if you can just kind of let the body flow and do its thing. The second thing is really shoring yourself up with your core. And I want to think about that more than just your abdominals, but really like when you think about your foundation and like making sure that you set yourself up well when you're in any shape. So if you're setting up for a tree pose, which we'll do later, making sure that whatever foot's staying on the ground is really solid. So you're pressing through all, we'll talk about this when we do it, but pressing through all the corners of your foot and making sure that your weight is evenly distributed and having a solid core or really like root to that. And then the last piece is your gaze. So where are you looking? So like the typically when you think about dancers and how they do their all their work that they do, I'm not a dancer, but when they do that, a lot of times they focus on where their gaze is. And so we want to find, as we're going into these shapes, to find an unmoving, very important, a spot in front of you that is not moving that you can focus on and keep your gaze focused on in order to maintain the balance of the shape. Now, metaphorically, gaze is a good thing as well. Where do I have my sight? Where do I have my vision right now? So thinking about that as well can be another thing to consider. But we'll get there in time. So taking all of that in, I want to just encourage maybe thinking about what are those areas of my life when I need a little bit of help. I could maybe stand to balance things out just a little bit more. And we'll come back to those thoughts and ideas later on with some affirmations and some rest as well. So starting in a seated shape, if you're not already there, I want to encourage us to go into some movement. The seated shape doesn't really matter. You can be on your knees, you can be in more of an easy pose, whatever feels right for you. Sit up on a block or a bolster if that helps your posture and helps your hips and knees. So I'm going to start with just some seated cat and cow shapes. So if you're unfamiliar with this, it's easiest to start maybe to go into cat. So bending your spine, caving your shoulders forward, head might come down, releasing forward, maybe holding onto your knees with your hands to support yourself if you want. And then we go the opposite direction, moving your spine in a way the opposite way. So bringing your sternum, your chest bones forward. And maybe your head comes back. Being very mindful of the back of your neck as well. And then maybe you come back into the other shape. So moving your spine in the opposite way. And then maybe inhaling back into cow. So inhaling up, your head comes back, your spine can arch. Find the right level of arch for you. Don't go farther than what is right for your spine today. We want to warm up very gently. So maybe you're just kind of moving your head up and down or just a gentle movement of your spine, whatever feels right for you. See if it feels okay to do it in a very even way though. So maybe a couple of counts here or just the length of your breath. And then inhaling into cow very gently, taking as much time as you need. My hands always slide back and forth a little bit on my knees as I do this. So feel free to do that if you want, or just allow them to be at rest on your thighs or in your lap. Maybe just a couple more of these, warming up your spine very gently. Maybe you even want to do a little bit more movement to get into that cat shape in particular. That can feel really good to press through your shoulders as well. And then setting that aside for a moment, and I invite you into a little bit of work with our wrists and our arms. So to start, I want to invite just some gentle fists. So don't really tighten, but just gently make a fist and then see if it feels okay to just rotate your wrist a little bit. We'll spend a little bit of time on our hands. So I always find that warming up your wrists, it's something I always do. My wrists are pretty sensitive, so it feels good to warm them up just a little bit. You can also place kind of your hands in a prayer shape and maybe kind of move them kind of like a fishtail back and forth. Also kind of making, I guess I'm kind of making a figure eight or an infinity sign here. See if we can relax the rest of your body. So just check in with your shoulders if you do this. See if they don't really have to be involved here. See if you can find a way that they don't need to be raised up to your ears. Maybe checking with your jaw as well. And then also I want to encourage you to kind of reach your hand forward and then drop your hand at the wrist. And maybe with your other hand, gently rotate your fingers in their sockets. Pulling down very gently, you might get a little bit of movement or some experience and sensation over the back of your wrist, top of your wrist, however you want to think about it. And then gently pull on each finger, maybe kind of like rotating them in their sockets. And then maybe also just pulling your hand down, encouraging the end of your wrist there. And then maybe also going in the opposite to the direction. So bending your hand up, flexing it back, and maybe even pulling back on your fingers very gently. You can do your thumb as well if you want, or just your four fingers. Again, relaxing your shoulder if you can, breathing nice and slow. And then shake that out whenever you're done. I feel a lot in my shoulder this morning. That's why I keep saying it. I'm not sure what's going on. You know how it's like you hit a certain age and you sleep funny, and all of a sudden everything is just like, what is happening? No one knows how that feels. You're the only one. Got it. And then going to the other hand, bringing it straight out from you, maybe wiggling your fingers just a little bit. And then again, maybe pressing down on your hand to encourage some of that movement through your wrist. Again, if you have sensitive wrists, please do so very carefully. There's lots of tiny little muscles and bones and things, so we try to be careful with ourselves. And then maybe going in the other direction as well, kind of pulling your hand back, flexing it. You might feel this all the way up your arm. Again, see if you can just really relax your shoulder, your forearm, your biceps, triceps, everything. And then again, release and shake that out. Very good. A few head rolls might be a good idea as well this morning as we get ready to go. Nice and slow movement here, relaxing your head, neck, and shoulders. Getting all the cracks and creaks out to get started. And then maybe a few shoulder rolls as well. If you slept funny like I did, feel free to go for it, maybe moving them one at a time. And then I just want to invite a little bit of gentle shoulder movement in something that is sometimes called a sun breath. It can be really helpful for really balancing out the nervous system a little bit. But it's a little bit like the cat and cow, but don't feel like you have to do all the spinal flexion if you don't want to right now. But basically all we do is we bring our hands and our arms together. If you can bring your forearms together, great, in front of your face. And then kind of lean forward just a little bit. And then whenever you're ready to inhale, open all the way up, coming to cactus arms. So again, you can do kind of that cow shape if you want. Otherwise, keep your spine kind of neutral. It can just be a shoulder and arm movement if you want. So exhaling down, basically a contracting and expanding exercise. But again, see if we can stay even, opening up and contracting all the way back up. Opening up whenever you're ready to inhale, following your breath, and then exhaling back down. Opening up. And I'm going to invite just about 5 more of these. This is a really good thing you can do if you're, working or in the middle of your day, whatever you've got going on. This can be done at a desk. It can be nice, especially dealing with hunched over shoulders, texting situations, bringing everything open and closed, just exploring that range of motion can be really good for posture as well. One more, if that feels okay for you. Otherwise, feel free to rest for just a moment. And then release. Maybe taking a moment to just notice. We did a fair amount of work with our arms, just noticing anything that's present here for you, trying not to be judgmental about any sensation that comes up. And then feel free to join me in a tabletop shape. We'll be here for just a little while, doing a little bit of balance. We've already worked on our wrists and our spine and stuff, but feel free to do any tabletop shapes that feel good for you, whether that's more cat-cow or just anything that serves your needs today. Sometimes I find it helpful to just kind of rotate between child's to table all the way into kind of a low cobra or up dog, whatever feels best for you. Getting into your hips a little bit more, finding a little bit of openness there if that feels okay. Child is a great way to start working on your hips without overdoing it. And just taking good care of your body as you move through these shapes. And then we'll do a little bit of work on this table shape with our core and some balance as well. So for this, I'm going to encourage starting off just by taking one of your feet. I'm going to start with my back left foot and setting my toes on the ground behind me. And to start pressing through your heel and just notice when you do that shift, what changes with your balance? Do you need to adjust the rest of your body in any way, shape, or form? So set yourself up really well, making sure your hands are really, fingers are really, really spread and pressing through the corners of your fingers all the way to the edges and pressing through your heel. And then setting your knee back down whenever you're done with that. And again, just notice any change in balance. And then perhaps go with the other leg. Maybe it's your right leg if you're following along with me. And again, pressing through your heel, really engaging through your calf, your hamstring, the back of your leg, maybe even up into your glutes. And just notice the shift. Any shifts you have to make as you change, as things change around you that might impact your balance. And then setting your knee back down whenever you're ready. This time, maybe um, you can do the same thing with your left foot, but you can also set it straight back where you're holding it off the ground here. Now, this will really change your balance probably. So feel free to shore yourself up through your core. So setting yourself up to succeed by having your abdominal muscles, the muscles across your back as well engaged to support your leg being out and back. And most important, find a spot to focus on and breathe. Setting your knee down whenever you're done with that. And on your next inhale, sending your other leg back, pointing your toes toward the ground, flexing your foot, kind of like you're trying to just really push against a wall behind you, or maybe even kick behind you, as if there were something there that you could press on. And again, using your core, your gaze, your breath to really support this shape, trying to be as balanced as possible and setting that down whenever you're done. I'm going to do that a few more times, but I also want to encourage you, you can add an arm situation to it as well. So maybe just do the arm to start and just feel how it is to have your arm, one hand off the ground, only having 3 points on the earth. Set up my knees a little bit better. There we go. Making sure your knees are underneath your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders, if at all possible. Allowing the 3 points on the ground to support this shape. And then setting your hand down when you're done, going to the other side. Breathing nice and slow. I find it kind of fascinating how different this feels versus having a leg out. I find it easier to put a leg out than a hand out, personally. And then setting that down whenever you're ready. Now, you have 4 options, of course. You can do one leg, one arm at a time, or you can also start to do one leg and one arm at the same time if you like. So taking, I don't know, 5 or 7 rounds of each, see if it feels okay to maybe send one leg back, testing your balance, focusing, breathing, and then setting it back down, and then doing the same with the other one, maybe taking the opposite arm at the same time. Left arm, right leg, right arm, left leg. And you can be as dynamic about this as you want. You can move as much as you want, or you can be more static, whatever feels best for you. Wherever you are, see if you can really engage through your arms and your legs, and especially your core, focusing, and most important, breathing into these shapes. I find these really great core strengthening exercises without having to do sit-ups, which I don't know if anyone really likes those anyway. Good for you if you do. But this is a really great way to just kind of work on your back, strengthening your back, and taking good care of your middle section, which needs a lot of strength as we get, especially as we age, transition through life. And then whenever you're done with that, feel free to set that down and maybe just rest in a child's pose. So spreading your knees wide if you want, or keeping them together, and just really allowing yourself to elongate and come down into this shape. I want to encourage at least 7 or 8 breaths here, nice and slow. Maybe do the 4x4 breathing if you want. feeling the effects on your body, of the work that you've done so far, the attempts to strike a balance. And breathe, nice and slow. And whenever you're done with that, feel free to come back to your knees and take a moment to just absorb all of the work done so far, taking care of yourself, taking care of your body. And we'll move into a gate pose, explore this for a little bit. Um, and I think of it as a balance shape for sure. There's a lot of stability and support here as you do this, but feel free to do whatever works best for you. You can also turn sideways on your mat if you want, so because you will be sticking your leg out one way or the other. I'm turning this way so you can see me better, of course. And so for gait, encourage you to come up onto your knees. Now, if your knees are sensitive or if you're on a really hard surface, um, feel free to put a cushion or a blanket underneath your knees if that's something that you would need. Can be a really good idea. Even just a folded up towel can do wonders for that. I never anticipated how soft it would be to be on the ground. Being outdoors, it's pretty great. Yeah, so good. I'm glad you had something under your knees too. All right, so for this, for gate pose, the first thing we want to do is just focus on one leg. So I'm going to put my right leg out. So I want to focus on my left knee being really solid. So making sure that it's really set up well as you move your other foot out. And we'll take our foot and it will go straight away from us. Feel free to point it away like you're a dancer, or you can flex it. That's more your jam. When I flex my foot, I have to extend my leg a little bit further. But find what works best for you. And I'm going to point my toes for today. And for gait, we'll basically work in a side stretch working toward that leg. And you can already feel how the balance comes into play here before we've even really done very much. But taking your hand and without putting all your weight onto your leg, slide down as far as you want. Maybe you go down all the way to your foot. Maybe you don't. Who cares? Nobody cares. This is not a contest. But if you want, you can also bring your other arm up, straight up, like you're twisting open in an extended side angle, or you can come on over and make it more like this. So you're making a gate here underneath. And most important, take a few slow breaths. If you are coming way over, see if you can avoid caving. See if you can just keep your posture nice and open. And breathe. Maybe gaze on a certain spot that feels really solid in front of you. And breathe a few more times. And then come back up whenever you're ready. And take a moment to just set yourself back up, maybe on your knees or maybe seated. Breathing nice and slow in and out very gently. And then we'll work on gait on the other side. And now, if this shape is really not serving your body, feel free to skip it, of course. As always, it's always an option, right? So if you like to do gait with me on the other side, again, setting yourself up well on your knees, using a support if you would like, and then making sure that the other knee is really solidly in place before moving your other foot out. Pointing your foot out away from you, Again, I'm preferring to maybe point my toes today. Again, this is another option if you want to engage more with your hamstrings and all the stuff underneath your leg. And then taking your left arm and starting to slide down your left leg or whichever side you're on, keeping your body spiraled open without putting all of your weight onto your arm, onto your leg, and reaching up. And then coming on over if you would like. It might be a pretty long stretch through the side of your body, maybe from your hand all the way down to your knee on that stretching side, the opposite side from your straight leg. And wherever you are, just breathe, keeping your gaze in one spot and really supporting yourself with your core, not letting yourself dump into this shape, and then coming on up in 3, 2, 1, or whenever you want. You do your. And then we'll come back to center here, back into our knees, and just take a moment to absorb all of that before we go into some of our movement, our flow part of the practice today. All right. So whenever you're ready, we'll move toward downward facing dog. So setting this up well, bringing your hands out and really pressing through all of your fingers, really making some claws with your hands, flipping your toes over and bringing your hips up into the air. Pressing through all your fingers. And I always like to pedal my legs. I know a lot of people do. Don't feel like you have to have straight legs and your heels all the way in the ground. Some people can do that. Very few, I think, can do that right off the bat. But wherever you are, let that be okay. That's exactly where you are. Nothing good or bad about it. It's just what it is. It's where it is. And continue to pedal your legs a little bit, warming up your hamstrings, your ankles, your feet, pressing through your fingers, bring your hips up as high to the sky as you can. And then whenever you're ready, start to walk your feet very slowly, one tiny, tiny, tiny little step at a time, working your way up to forward fold. And then in this forward fold, take your feet as far apart as is right for you. And then maybe you take opposite elbows in your hands and see if you can allow from your waist up to just release forward. So from your waist all the way up to the top of your head, see if you can have zero effort, zero straining, zero work. I don't know if that's totally possible, but just use the imagery as best you can, allowing your lower body to support you. And then very, very, very slowly, whenever you're done with this, feel free to come all the way up to standing. I always think it's very important to take as much time as you need to come to standing. And in this mountain pose or Tadasana, see if it feels okay just to set yourself up really well. We don't think a lot about how we stand necessarily, but see if you can focus on your feet firmly planted on the ground. What does your balance look like when you're on both feet? And what does it look like to allow your shoulders to relax down and back? What is the position of your pelvis, your hips? Are you really tucked? Do you have your pelvis going in the other direction? Whatever feels like a good balance of the shape. And maybe you want to move your shoulders up towards your ears and then down your back to kind of feel where they might want to be. And see if we can notice also our head placement. A lot of times we'll jut our heads forward, especially with all texting and things. So feel free to make sure that you maybe try pushing your chin back even just a quarter of an inch and see what impact that has. I know that the farther forward your head is, the more strain we can put on our necks and things. So just be mindful of that right now. And it might even feel like you're leaning back a little bit, and that's okay. And take a few moments to rest here. And then from this mountain pose, well, I'll ask you to move into a tree to start out. So if you're thinking about the flow that's about to happen, maybe make your tree near the top of your mat. I'm going to face you so I can see what I'm doing, but I would encourage you to maybe be toward the top of your mat. And once again, setting up well for one side of your body. So I always start on my left side and want to encourage you to get your foot as comfortable and solid on the ground as possible. So really pressing, maybe lift up your toes and press the front and back of your foot into your mat pretty firmly. Don't hurt yourself, but nice and firm. Then maybe set your toes down and allow them to really grip your mat or whatever surface you're on. And then from here, you can take your other foot, start to really take the weight off of your other foot. And tree is just the hip opener, a balancing hip opener. So feel free to take the time to really set this up well. So if you want to just open up your hip, maybe have your right knee go out to the side, maybe just be up on your toes next to your other foot. So maybe that's where you are. This is a tree pose. That's all we need to do. Again, the focus is to have a hip opener, not necessarily to have your foot off the ground. If you want, you can bring your foot more up under your shin, though, if you like. Or you can bring it up even higher into more of this zone up on your thigh. It's going to be a very different experience depending on where you have it, but there's no wrong way to do this. Whatever feels right for you. We do want to, I guess there is one wrong way. Don't put your foot on your knee joint. That can be maybe less helpful. We don't want to compromise our knee integrity there. So maybe your hands are together at prayer. Again, utilizing the three elements I mentioned before. So your core, making sure you're nice and stable through your root and your core. Your breath, have a nice slow breath, even in and out. And then your gaze on one unmoving spot out in front of you. And if you're like me, you might notice that your foot that is providing the stability is probably doing a lot of work. It might be adjusting constantly. At least that's how it goes for me. But taking another solid in and out breath here. And then from here, we'll be moving into a warrior one shape. So taking your bent leg and stepping back. You can go straight from your tree into your warrior one. It's a fun little balance trick if you want. You can do that at parties and impress your friends. And feel free to bend your front knee in this warrior shape, your back leg straight out behind you, your foot at a 45-degree angle. And then with warrior one, you're welcome to bring your arms up and overhead. We'll go through these shapes very slowly the first time. Maybe you look up towards your hands. You can also bring your hands together, maybe even back bend a little bit if that suits your needs, or skip it and move into warrior two. So opening up, leaving the legs pretty much the same. Your hips might open up again like they did in tree, and find yourself in warrior two. And then from this warrior two, we're just going to move even farther to the side into a star shape. So bringing your feet parallel to each other and reaching through your arms. So making like a five-pointed star here with your head, your arms, and your legs, reaching, pretending someone's pulling on all of your limbs. I realize that was maybe a medieval torture situation, but just see if that can feel okay today. Reaching, reaching, reaching through your arms. And then from here, you can stay here or forward fold all the way down with a wide leg stance. Maybe you take your hands to one side, stretching through your low back, bring your hands to one foot. This might stretch across the lower back of the opposite side, and then maybe moving also in the other direction if you want. You might bend your knees if that helps or if that feels right for you. Maybe bending one leg and then the other. Coming back to the other side. Again, just getting a little bit of a lower stretch on your spine, rather the lower side of your, going back and forth. You can also come all the way down to one side if you want. So sitting on one side, bending one leg fully, and stretching out your other leg, stretching through your hamstring off to the side, kind of like our gait from earlier, but on your toes. And then coming to the other side, letting your hands move you all the way across and bending, flexing your foot fully the other direction again. If squatting in this way is not useful for your body, feel free to skip it or do a much higher version maybe, where you're not squatting all the way down, but instead just kind of bending your legs and going back and forth like we did a moment ago. Whatever helps you best. There's no wrong way here. But see if you can find a little bit of side to side action there. And then maybe bring your feet closer together and coming into Malasana or the squat here. Maybe your elbows come between your knees. You can come to hands at prayer if you like. But see if you can keep your chest open even in this shape. It's really tempting to kind of cave down. So try to keep your body open. See if you can really stay open through this shape. In the side squat, or rather Malasana squat. And then from here, we'll move into a low lunge. So turning toward the top of your mat, keeping the leg that was bent for warrior bent in the same way, but this time with your lower leg all the way down. Feel free to straighten your front leg for a hamstring stretch if that suits your needs. See if you can keep your hips as parallel to the top of your mat as possible. And then coming back to your low lunge, pressing your hands into the mat and moving back into downward facing dog one more time. Well, not one more time, but moving back to downward dog again. Hips up into the air. Pressing through all of your fingers, maybe pedaling your legs. See if this down dog feels any different than the last one. And then whenever you're ready, feel free to bring your feet, again, one tiny, tiny, tiny little step at a time, up toward the top of your mat into a forward fold. Breathing nice and slow. And come all the way back up to standing. Arms can come up overhead, looking up toward the sky. And then arms down into mountain here. And then we get to do the other side. So I will start up at the top of the mat this way and do tree on the other side, moving into warrior. I just move directions so that I'm not away from it. I'm facing the same way. So for me, this is stepping into my right foot, providing a lot of stability and support here. Again, setting yourself up well for this balanced shape, and then taking your other foot and going to the same place if you want. Maybe utilizing that same kind of shape, or if your body needs something different on this side, see if you can listen to it and find the right thing for you. Again, with your toes on the ground, opening up through your opposite hip, or maybe having your foot on your calf, avoiding your knee, and or maybe coming all the way up to your thigh. They all have different purposes. They all have different needs, so none of them is better. Just because a person does this doesn't mean they're better at the shape. This is where it feels right for me today, so that's where I am. And continue to breathe, adjust to the shape, and set yourself up well through your core and your roots. Checking your balance here and there. Again, facing the top of your mat and stepping back with your bent leg into warrior one. Finding the shape, reaching your arms up alongside your ears, maybe looking up, maybe your hands come together, and maybe it's even a little bit of a back bend if you want. And then whenever you're ready to open up into warrior two, you can look to the side or look straight ahead, whatever feels better for you. See what feels nice and powerful in this shape. And then again, when you're ready, opening up, feet parallel, star. Subtle shift between warrior two and star. But again, I want to encourage you to really see if you can make yourself as tall and just long as possible. I'm not a very long person, kind of short. So, but this one still helps me if you feel taller and longer. With your arms really outstretched, your feet parallel with each other, but reaching through your legs as well. And then whenever you're ready to exhale, come all the way forward. And this time in this straddle forward fold, you're welcome to go back and forth between the two sides again if you want, or if you want to do more of a chest opening experience, take your hands behind you, maybe even just put them on your low back or interlace your fingers and bring them up and over. When I want to move in a very slow, gentle way, this is probably my favorite way to do it. Opening up through my upper body, my shoulders, my arms, and folding over. There's something about this shape that I like. Then release that if that's not working for you, or if you're done with that. And then maybe just, again, go side to side, coming all the way down to one side if you want. Maybe doing a little bit of balance here, bringing your hands together at your heart, or supporting yourself with your hands, and then coming all the way over to the other side if that works for you. Again, flexing your foot if that's where you are. Or any other shape that feels right for you in this straddle shape. Lots of ways to play with this. And then maybe again coming to center for another squat. And again, if you're one of those people where this just doesn't work, you're welcome to sit on a block. Or if you're maybe a little hypermobile and this is too much, maybe bring your hips up just a little bit, making it a little bit more active. If you really dump into it, that may not be right for you if you're hypermobile. So see if you can really engage a little bit more. You'll definitely feel it more through your legs and in your hips, in your thighs rather. Let's see what feels best for you. And then coming back into a low lunge on this side with your knee bent and leg back behind you. Feel free to straighten your front leg if you like, for a split trap, Hanumanasana. And then maybe coming forward one more time before moving into downward facing dog. And then very, very slowly working your way back up to a forward fold. And then all the way back up to standing. Arms can come up along your sides, along your ears, reaching up to the sky. And then relaxing back down. And I just want to invite you to do that with me one more time on each side. Feel free to skip it if that's not feeling good for you in your body, but I want to encourage being able to do that for about like one breath per shape. So we'll inhale and exhale with every single shape. Or say never mind and find some rest or something else that does suit your needs. You can do a bunch of sun salutations if that's more your speed, more your jam. So moving back to the left side for tree pose. Again, we're only going to be here for one breath, so don't worry as much about setting it up in any certain way, and find the right tree for you that you can do for just one breath. It won't take very long to set up. So feel free, whenever you're ready, to inhale, setting up your left leg or whichever leg you're going to start on, then exhale. And then when you inhale, set up your tree pose. Inhale fully, bringing your arms up if you like, and then exhale. And then as you inhale, bringing your leg back for your warrior one, stepping back, leaving your arms up alongside your ears into warrior one, full breath in and out. And out. Opening up for warrior two, full breath in and out. And then moving into your star. So feet parallel, coming to the side, opening up. Inhale and exhale. And then folding all the way forward. And this time we're just going to be here for just a moment. Fully inhale and exhale. Do anything you want in this shape, so don't worry about making it fancy. Before coming into your squat, inhale and exhale, skipping it if that's not right for you. And then low lunge, if you're with me, on our left side, left foot forward, right back. Inhale, exhale. Straighten your leg whenever you're ready. And then after your exhale, coming forward again for a low lunge. And then pressing your hands into your mat, coming back for downward facing dog for a full breath in and out. Settle your legs if you want, or settle into stillness for a full breath. Then stepping very slowly to a forward fold. Releasing your upper body from your hips all the way down. And then coming up very, very slowly to standing once again. Maybe bringing your arms alongside your ears all the way up, looking up, breathing the sun. And exhaling back down. And then we'll do the other side for one last flow. Continuing to think about this concept of balance, whatever it means to you. In what ways can you set yourself up to succeed with a little bit more balance? So if you're along with me, settling into your right foot, taking the weight off of your left foot, inhale and exhale as you bring your foot to wherever you want to put it on this side. After your exhale, start to move your foot back into warrior one, setting it back at a 45-degree angle, bending your front knee, arms alongside your ears. Inhale, exhale. And then opening up for warrior two whenever you're ready. Inhale, exhale. Coming again to the side star, feet parallel, reaching through your arms and legs. Inhale and exhale. And then folding forward. Opening up through your chest if you want. Finding a little bit of time on either side if you want. Whatever feels best for you here. On a full inhale and exhale. Before setting up for your squat, bringing your feet together a little bit closer together and setting up for a full inhale and exhale in a squat shape. Nice and slow breath. And then moving to that low lunge on the right side or whichever side you're on. Full breath in and out. Straightening your front leg, full breath in and out. Coming back to your low lunge one more time. Pressing your hands into the mat when you're done breathing in and out. Coming back to your downward facing dog. We'll be here for just a moment. Full breath in and out. And then from here, just setting your knees down on the mat and coming back into a seated shape. And from here, in seated shape, I want to move into something that can be a very helpful release or something you can just skip altogether. So start by just finding your feet on the mat in front of you, bent in front of you, maybe bring them about a foot from your hips, and then take your hands behind you, pointing your fingers toward your hips. And this can be your shape if you want. You can kind of apply some pressure through your feet. You can apply pressure with your hands, really sitting up nice and tall and opening through your chest. And then kind of like our tabletop from before, but in reverse. I'm sorry, I mean for your hands to be the other direction, fingers pointing away. You can bring your hips up and become more of a reverse tabletop. Pressing your hips up, you can make as flat a shape as you want, but then set it back down whenever you're done. Let me try the other direction with my hands, actually, see which feels better. See if you want to point your fingers toward your hips or away from your hips. You do you, whatever feels best. Yeah, that one's better for me. Your head can come back, really releasing through your neck and shoulders, pressing your hips up toward the sky, pressing through your feet, and then setting back down whenever you're done. And I'm going to do just one more of those. Kind of a balanced shape there, making sure you set yourself up really well. Skip it if it's not right for your body. And maybe just finding some other shape that feels best. And release that whenever you're done. I want to encourage a forward fold, anything that feels good for you. So if you want to do butterfly legs, if you want to have a wide straddle and do a forward fold, I think this feels good for me right now. So having whatever leg shape, you can have your legs together if you want. See if you can make your spine nice and tall as you lean forward, coming forward as straight a spine as you can before just letting go and letting your spine just release. And then unlike all the movement we were doing earlier, this forward fold, we're going to be here for a while. So at least 10 slow breaths. Or if you're really feeling it, maybe you want to do 20 or maybe just 5. But whatever feels right for you, I encourage you to take the time you need to make this as comfortable as you can, exploring the shape in the most helpful way for you. See if you can release your head, neck, and shoulders, maybe even your entire upper body in this shape. If they don't have to be active, see if we can let that go. And breathe nice and slow. You're welcome to do the 4x4 breathing here if that suits your needs, if you found that helpful, or just a nice slow breath. Releasing as much tension as possible. And then coming on up whenever you're ready, bringing your legs together if they're not already there. And then we'll move into just a little bit of core work here on our way down to our backs. If you don't want to do the high and low boat, feel free to skip it and just go ahead and lay on down if that suits your needs. But in the interest of a little bit of core work, I want to invite into a boat shape. So for this, you can have your hands underneath your legs if you want to support yourself. Keep your back as straight as you can for the entirety of this. You know, that will become harder and harder as we go. And then maybe if you want, you can bring your feet up and off the ground, pointing your toes if you like. Again, see if you can prevent from just kind of dumping down into your back. So keep your back nice and straight, engage through your core, the front and back of your body. And then if you want, you can also release your hands from your legs. And you might start to shake. I'm told that's a good thing. It doesn't feel like a good thing, but here we are anyway. And then maybe come down lower into low boat. You might straighten your legs, keeping your shoulders and your feet off the ground. And then release that whenever you're done with that. Take a few slow breaths here, maybe sighing a little bit into your mat. And we'll do a teensy little bit of balance work here on our back through our bridge pose. So feel free to bring your feet close to your hips, almost to the point where they touch your fingertips. And then pressing through your hands and your feet, maybe even your forearms, bring your hips up. And then release whenever you're done with that. Feel free to inhale, bring your hips up toward the sky, pressing through your feet and releasing. You're welcome to also bring your arms in on the action, in on the movement. So feel free when you come up, bring your arms up and overhead. That's another option for bridge. Bring your hips and your arms up at the same time, inhaling and then exhaling them down together. Maybe just a few more of these. Inhaling up and then exhaling back down. And if you like to get super fancy, you can also bring one foot up in the air for a little bit of balance. And then releasing back down before doing the other side. Resting through your feet or foot on the ground and releasing whenever you're done. And from here, I want to invite just if your knees are still bent or if they're not, see if you can join me there. And then letting your knees fall just to one side. A very gentle twist here. Maybe you have one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and then maybe look the opposite way from where your knees are. Breathing in and out, nice and slow. And at this point, we really start to slow things down. So see if you can release any and all tension from your feet, from your legs. And then bringing your knees back up through center. And then letting your knees fall to the other side for a twist on the other side of your body, maybe looking the other direction. Again, letting your body rest in the shape, relaxing, resting. Your body might change over time in the shape, so see if you can just let that be, let that happen. Maybe close your eyes if that suits your needs. And then whenever you're ready to come back through center, find any other shape that feels right for you in this moment, maybe bringing your feet, your knees up to your chest. Holding in your hands, maybe rocking a little bit side to side. Provide a gentle massage for your lower back if that's your thing. Maybe a happy baby or any other shape that feels good for you before coming into a final resting shape. Take your time, whether or not it's butterfly legs, reclining butterfly, Uttanasana, or Shavasana, or resting on your belly, whatever feels good for you. I'll sit up here and just invite you into an even breath once more. Feel free to join me, taking a few slow breaths in and out, or skip it if it's not right for you. Breathing in and out. You can hold the inhale or exhale if you like, or skip it. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And while you continue to breathe in any way that feels right for you, I want to offer a few affirmations. And if affirmations aren't really your jam, don't worry about it. Feel free to just kind of meditate on whatever feels right in this moment. But I want to encourage contemplation of these phrases while you rest and relax and breathe. And the first phrase is, I can learn new things and do things differently. I can learn new things and do things differently. Continue to breathe and maybe consider it's okay to say yes. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say yes, even if it scares me. And it's okay to say no. Next, as you continue to breathe, I can allow myself to relax. I can allow myself to relax. I can make time for what is important in my life. I can make time for what is important in my life. And finally, especially in the interest of balance, considering I can be tough and gentle, soft and strong. Need to breathe in and out nice and slow. I can find a balance of tough and gentle, soft and strong. And breathe in and out nice and slow. I'll go quiet here for a few minutes and just encourage some gentle rest, allowing everything to integrate from all the work that you've done so far today, considering the ways where you might have found balance in the class, in ways you can maybe take that off the mat with you. You're welcome to stay here as long as you like. Resting, allowing your energy to settle and brighten. But if you're ready to come out of that, feel free to move in 6 small ways. Maybe fingers and toes, deepen your breath just a bit. Starting to become more aware of your surroundings, the sounds, the sights, smells, the textures, maybe even the taste. And breathe very slowly in and out. Coming up to a seated shape if you're not already there. Slowly reawakening your body and bringing it back to the center. I encourage you, if you'd like, to bring your hands to a prayer shape and maybe even rub your hands together, generating a little bit of heat, a little bit of energy here. We can feel a lot of energy in our hands because of all the little nerve endings and the nadis and the different energy points that happen in our hands. So feel free to bring them together and then maybe place one hand on your heart and one on your belly. See if you can feel that connection between your hand and your body, your energy center, a connection, that channel that you make with your hand and your heart and your belly here. See if you can send yourself just a ton of gratitude and self-compassion for your work today. Breathing nice and slow. A little bit of a pat on the back, if you will. See if you can take the work that you did on the mat out into your day, whatever that means to you. Striking a balance in your relationships, in your work, in your day-to-day, but especially in how you take care of yourself and your needs. Know that I'm eternally grateful for your presence here today, and I use namaste in the sense of greeting you wholly and fully as a divine being. The inner core of my divine being, honoring the inner core of yours. Love and light. Namaste.